And live from Palm Beach, once again indoors, because once again we had a day of rain. Not as much rain, but rain, and it's going to stop tomorrow. That's what they promised me. And I told them if they didn't, I was going to blame it on Donald Trump. I'm going to indict him for, it's a federal crime to give a false weather report. I'm sure Trump did that a few times, like to get people to play golf. He probably said it's going to be a nice day and it rained. And I think Jack Smith should indict him for it. It would be a better case than he has right now. Right? Right. I was trying to think all day because I've been disturbed all day watching the triumphal march of Xi Jinping into the Chinese city that he came into yesterday. Now, what Chinese city was that? There's all Chinese people there, so it must have been a Chinese city. Probably a Potemkin village, like they have in North Korea. Oh, it used to be San Francisco, but they cleaned it out. They cleaned it out. There were only a couple of murders that day. The poor Czech TV crew that lost $18,000, and I think it was cleaned out. And also, the chance they're going to catch the people who did it is just about as good as the chance they're going to catch the last 20 murderers in San Francisco. And if they do, they'll probably set them free. And if they don't, then Governor Newsom will. But I was trying to figure, when is the last time an American president sold us out as bad as Biden and stinking Blinken did yesterday? And I figured it out. It was February 4th to February 11th, 1945. And his name was Franklin Delano. You think he was a great president? That's because you read history very much influenced by communists and people who lean communists and people who are extremely left-wing, like Arthur Schlesinger. They rewrote history not to tell you the truth. Now, if you consider the fact that, do you know when Roosevelt died? You know when he died? 2 months later. You think he knew what the hell he was doing in February of 1945? I don't. Most people didn't think he knew what he was doing when he was running in 1944. Well, we sent a demented president there, surrounded by communist-leaning advisors, and they gave away Eastern Europe to Joe Stalin. They subjected the people of Poland, people of Czechoslovakia, people of Eastern Europe for sure, to decades of persecution, torture, murder, and enslavement. Biden has already done with the people in Ukraine. Ukraine wouldn't have happened under Trump, it happened under Biden. Like he's already done in Israel. I mean, it wouldn't have happened if we had a real American president. We don't have a president. And yet yesterday's conference was, to a real American, it made you cry. I want you to watch what Governor Newsom and the Biden people planned for one of the biggest mass murderers living. This guy has killed minimum 10 to 20 million people. He's currently engaged in trying to wipe out the Uyghur people. And one of the things Biden did in this beautiful conference is lift the sanctions for that. So now he can go back and not feel any for the rest of the Uyghurs. And then on the side, he kills the Christians, and he does a pretty good job on the Falun Gong too. There he tries to keep them alive because he likes to take their kidneys. This is a monster. This is not a human being. To do this propaganda on the streets of an American city is a sacrilege. Now you watch it. That could be that city 10 years from now. I'm not kidding. I mean, that's where Biden has us headed. I mean, he basically had an opportunity yesterday to kick the hell out of Z. I'm going to read you a little excerpt from the Wall Street Journal from an intelligent man, which would exclude Joe Biden and his administration, Thomas J. Duesterberg in the Wall Street Journal a week ago. China's weakening economy offers an opportunity to win meaningful changes in Beijing's policies. It'll take a hard-line approach. I mean, immediately, count out. Z desperately needs relief from Western sanctions, tariffs, investment restrictions to prop up China's faltering economy. And carrots have never worked with Beijing. 4 sticks are available. Sanctions on the banks laundering Chinese illicit purchases of Iranian and Russian oil. Didn't know that. Opposition to any Treasury or Federal Reserve dollar relief to China. Didn't do that. Expansion of investment restrictions, more broad until he makes the desired changes. Didn't do that. And significantly more restrictions on American investment in Chinese firms because he needs us desperately. Didn't do that. He did the opposite. He gave him financial relief. He lifted the specific sanctions, which are major, that were placed on by a real president, Donald Trump, for his eliminating the Uyghur people. Lifted them. I mean, it's not only symbolic in that now he can feel pretty comfortable getting rid of the rest of them, but he's going to make money. And he lifted the sanctions, massive sanctions put on by Trump for stealing our intellectual property. So he'll just continue to do it, right? So it is hard to grasp, and it probably is hard to absorb the fact that he's a compromised, very weak word. He's a damn sellout and a traitor. That's what he is. Now, Roosevelt did it because he was surrounded for years by communists, influenced by them, had communist sympathizers like Harry Hopkins around him. He had people who went to jail for being communists around. Also, he wasn't even alive. I mean, he wasn't alive when he was running. This was only 2 months before he died. And he just said yes to everything Uncle Joe wanted, warned by Churchill that, we made friends with him, but we really aren't his friend, Franklin. Somehow Franklin didn't grasp that at the end. And there's Patton sitting there, ready to take East Berlin in a day. He'd have taken East Berlin in a day. There was nobody there. The Russians were very far away. Patton sat there for a month waiting for the Russians to come to the spoils so we could deliver Eastern Europe to communist oppression because the Roosevelt administration was surrounded by communists. Sound familiar? They're doing it to us again because you were defrauded into voting for them again. I hope you feel bad for your vote if you voted for them. I'll excuse you because they defrauded you. And I know you think I'm talking about the stolen election. I'm talking about the covered up hard drive. But you would have voted for him if you knew what was in that hard drive. If you knew, how about the $21 million? And before we prove it went to him, that went to his family. So he's negotiating for us. And the guy on the other side of the table is the head of the party that gave him $21 million. He didn't get $21 million from China. He got $21 million from the Chinese party, described directly by Hunter Biden as his partner was the chief spy in China. He was until they killed him. His other partner was the third or fourth richest man in China, one of the closest to Z, sitting below the Yangtze River now, because he probably angered Z. And just step back and think of that reception you just saw. That's a reception for a mass murderer. That'd be as if we did it for Hitler or Stalin. He's killed millions of people. He oversaw a government that used to kill little girl babies. I guess it's not terribly different than very, very late-term abortion, right? 7 months, 8 months, 9 months. The Democrats in the New York legislature reported for that. I'm not talking about abortion. I'm talking about 7 months, 8 months, 9 months. You take the baby out and crush the skull. They're in favor of that. So is Biden. After 40 years of being opposed to public funding of abortion and no abortions beyond 3 months, in order to be president, he changed his mind. That's what you got in the White House. Please, that election better come soon. By all indications, he's getting wiped out. And I think he made a Freudian slip last night when he introduced Orban with great praise that he has the very good chance of getting my job. Never mentioned Kamala Harris. I mean, even Joe knows that Kamala Harris isn't smart enough to be president. That's bad. But he mentioned Newsom as this guy could be, does he know something we don't know? Remember, he did this before. He slipped. What the heck was it? Oh, he slipped on gay marriage on Obama, and Obama got really, really angry. About a month or two before the administration was ready to announce it, he comes out and says he's changed his position, and now he's in favor of gay marriage. And they went crazy because they were working on a big ceremony to show, to get all the gays and lesbians in faith. Look, that's what you do politically. I'm not actually criticizing that. But Dodo leaks it, just says it. Did that happen again? Did Newsom go to China 2 months ago to kiss the ring of the triumphal one? He sure gave him, I'm going to tell you, if I were mayor in New York, that never would have happened in New York. I don't care if the president told me to do it. My cops wouldn't be there. They could do it themselves. Go do some other damn city. When dummy Mueller wouldn't give me information about a significant threat on New York in the middle of our recovery efforts at 9/11, I told him if I don't get the information, I'm going to call off the World Series. And he said, you wouldn't do that. I said, well, let me call you back in 15 minutes. I called up George Pataki. We got his agreement. I called him back. I said, if I don't get that information in an hour, the series is called off, and I'll tell the president he won't be able to throw out the first ball. And I'll tell him it's because you wouldn't give me the information. Mueller told me my police department might leak it, to which I laughed my head off, saying, I know everything going on in the FBI because I read it in the New York Times. It's as if I was still Associate Attorney General. In fact, I actually get more information now than I did in the Justice Department. So don't tell me that the police department leaks when you got an agency that you can follow everything they do 2 days later in the New York Times. So give me the damn information, because FBI is a great agency, but they don't know a damn thing about the streets of New York. And there may be a piece of information here that tells me Brooklyn Bridge or Manhattan Bridge, or that you wouldn't know, dummy. He was a dummy. He worked for me. This is the guy that let Whitey Bulger kill people with the sanction of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This deep state has been destroying us for a long, long time. And unfortunately, of us, they were heading us in this direction. They've gotten us there now, and we got to take it back. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. Okay, you ready? Okay. Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. Well, Dr. Maria, I have you here because I have you here. And I want to ask you a question about fentanyl. And exactly what do the Chinese contribute? They just raided a place in the Bronx with like hundreds of millions of dollars in fentanyl, and so it gets to the Bronx and it gets into and it kills people, right? So, how does it start?
Well, let me first by saying there is pharmaceutical synthetic fentanyl that is legal that we use here in the United States for cancer patients. Most of the time, it is through a patch. So it's absorbed through the skin over a length of time. And it's in those circumstances.
And that's prescribed.
And that's prescribed.
Or used in a hospital.
It's legal, used in a hospital under close monitoring, although cancer patients, they could have these patches at home without monitoring. But what China is doing is this is not a legal use of fentanyl precursors in China. Now, remember, fentanyl is 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. So the precursors are from China. They bring it to the cartels, and the cartels make fake pills, but so doesn't China, and so doesn't India in some respects. The pill looks like what you would get at a legitimate pharmacy. So the most disturbing trend is through Snapchat. So they pusher, if you will, maybe talking to somebody 14, 15 years old, and the person is saying how they're stressed out over exams or their parents are getting a divorce. And the pusher says, hey, I have this Ativan I got from my grandmother's medicine cabinet. It's only $5, $10. It'll calm you down. It is not a legitimate Ativan. There's absolutely no medicine in it that equals Ativan. Most likely it is full of fentanyl. But to look at the pill, I call them look-alike drugs. It looks like the Ativan. And then that youngster buys it, takes it, and never wakes up.
So in a way, one of the things it does compared to the old days when I was a narcotics prosecutor, usually an overdose happens either when a person's trying to commit suicide or they are a very, very big drug user and they just use too much. Mm-hmm. Here, a very moderate drug user.
Yes.
A very benign drug user in a way.
Or someone you might
just any drug could die like that because there's too much and they have.
Yeah.
Marijuana users have died from it.
Someone you may not even classify as a drug user, somebody who buys one pill. We've heard those stories repeatedly. Dies.
I think a lot of people don't believe it. A lot of people think it's they're cynical and they don't believe it, but it's absolutely true that it's a drug that fools you.
Yeah. Leading cause of death amongst those 18 to 65 years old is fentanyl poisonings. We like to call them poisonings because they aren't aware they are taking fentanyl as a drug. They think, again, they're buying an oxycodone or lorazepam.
So I'd like to make a political point, if I may. This was going on at a much smaller scale during the Trump administration. And Trump actually got control of it. I know it because my son worked on the task force.
Because he had control at the border.
Yeah. And one of the things he got was a promise from Z that they would crack down on precursors. Just same promise. I mean, the guy sells the same thing 3 times. Well, he didn't. In 6 months, he didn't do it. Well, those are the sanctions that have just gotten relieved.
We should never
Trump
release
hit him
those
with massive sanctions.
Yeah.
He hit him with massive sanctions. And in the last year he was in office, it was the first reduction in fentanyl, and they really felt they had gotten a little bit of a hold on it, because by getting the Mexican government to agree to do the screenings in Mexico, they got the Mexican government to agree to do joint law enforcement exercises.
Yes.
And this is how we defeated the Colombian cartels. Yeah. Because Biden came in, reversed everything Trump did without any regard to the safety of the American people. And the cartels went crazy. And China got the best thing that ever happened to them, a wide open border.
Can you imagine being a proud American like we are? Everybody in this room is a proud American. Everybody probably watching your show is a proud American, knowing that your own government has been complicit in the fentanyl poisoning deaths of Americans, sex trafficking of children from all around the globe, and for other offenses that have come through this. We've been complicit, and you know what? We collectively, not you and I, but we have made those cartels billionaires, multi-billionaires. And you don't think they're strong? They have weapons that equal or surpass our military. They are organized, and they have, what do you call them? Surrogates in all 50 states.
That is the amazing thing they've been able to do with their extra income. They are now represented in your city.
Yes, even my beloved New Hampshire,
big time.
We have the Sinaloa cartel.
Big time. And in upper New England, very strong. I mean, in fact, Lowell, Lawrence.
Oh, yeah, Massachusetts.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, big.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking New York,
Even
Los
Vermont.
Angeles, Chicago,
rural Vermont.
I will show you a map that I've updated. I haven't updated in 6 months. I'll update it again, but I'll show you a map that I did when I first started to study this, and about 5 years ago. And it did shock me that they were represented in American cities, because the Mexicans were always at the border. And then they handed things off. Maybe in the vacuum that was left by other organized crime groups preceding, they moved right in. And now with the extra income, they can overcome other organized crime groups. So they don't have to worry about handing their drugs off to another group. They handle it themselves.
Yeah, and our government has been, like I said, and then we have Alejandro Mayorkas, who has had dereliction of duty.
He's letting
not only are the cartels in charge of our border, we have had people on the terrorist watch list get through.
Well, yeah. One of the people that I probably despised the most was testifying before Congress, Christopher Wray. And he was sitting next to Mayorkas, and he was asked by his senator, he finally admitted, after really being pressed a little, that the number of terrorists that he's now forced to investigate is way FBI. Nothing like it was under Trump or even Obama or Bush. Maybe 10 times. Because think about it. For the last 3 years, they've all been allowed to come in. Now, you wouldn't be much of a terrorist if you didn't take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, here I am, a terrorist, and I hear Biden's got the border open.
And what is the FBI spending their time on? American citizens
who love going to Latin Mass.
Country.
And my apartment.
Or who want parents who want the best school system.
They took 10 FBI
children.
agents to raid my apartment, and they found ugats.
Yeah.
That's an Italian word for nothing. They found nothing.
Or proper Italian, as I speak in the end.
The idiots had to send a letter to the grand jury, which of course they didn't publicize. A letter to the grand jury saying they found no probable cause that me committed a crime.
No, you didn't. Of course you didn't.
I could have told them that. I mean, I did tell them that.
The way they went after the January 6th people, most were peaceful protesters, not even having the knowledge they were breaking any laws going in the Capitol when we see Capitol Police allowing them to come in. I always said we knew who the Trump supporters were because when they walked through the Capitol, they still velvet robes. Yeah. They did it respectfully.
But
they looked around and left.
You and I knew 9 o'clock that night what really happened.
Yes.
Because we got
we knew about the Antifa.
We got the Sullivan tape.
We knew about the FBI.
We got the Sullivan tape, and we saw that the murder of Ashley Babbitt was a first-degree homicide.
Yep.
I've known that, and it bothers the hell out of me. Now, I would like to. I was going to do it later in the show, but I'd like to see if we could show what happened last night, and tell me how this differs from January 6th. Not in terms of scope. I know there were more people involved in that, but it doesn't matter in the criminality of the people involved in it. And then we'll tell you the result of what happened in comparison to January 6th, which, by the way, some scholars should do an analysis. If they never investigated January 6th, how many people could they have saved from fentanyl if they devoted those same resources to catching the damn fentanyl dealer? Go ahead, show us what.
So this is outside the Democrat National Committee headquarters.
And I guarantee you, every single one of these people
in Washington
is a
D.C.
Democrat, communist, socialist. We don't have any Trump supporters there.
It's worth noting this is also just 2 blocks from the Capitol building.
Were there any poor boys there?
Well, let's see what went on.
Oh shit! Someone just got thrown. People getting thrown down the stairs. People getting thrown down the stairs. Yo.
Well, I mean, look at that. Now,
We don't even see the real bad thing with the police being attacked. There you see the police kind of trying to break up the crowd. But a lot of were hurt, and there was property destruction.
So now if we were the Democrat Party, the party of slavery and crookedness, we would say 4 cops were killed. And the compliant press would print it, despite the fact that it's not true. It wasn't true. No cops were killed that day.
I believe there was police officers killed
not
on
true.
January 6th, and no one was killed except 4 Trump supporters on January 6th.
And one was shot for no reason.
Yeah.
We would say that this was an insurrection. They were trying to actually they're trying to get into Congress ultimately. I mean, what it was a vicious, violent attack on people. And do you know how many arrests there were?
1.
See that? That's
Numero uno.
Even my little granddaughter Grace would know what that is. She would say 1.
Yep.
1 arrest.
Just 1. Is facial recognition being used by the FBI?
Oh,
Did
God
the
forbid.
FBI put these people up as most wanted?
God forbid.
Are they
Of
being
course not.
tracked now where they work? Are they being humiliated, being drug out of their workplace
they're gonna do it
or
again.
their homes?
And they're going to do it again. The people, by and large, it was a once in a lifetime situation for them. They're not professional, violent rioters. Most of these people are professional, violent,
You'll see them again.
anti-American, communist rioters.
Yep.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they're not paid for it. I got a pretty good idea who paid them.
I'm going to say it. I've covered riots in Washington, D.C. for media organizations, including Tucker Carlson's Daily Caller. So when I say this, it's not just out of the blue. I would bet almost any money, I can't prove it yet, that Antifa itself is involved.
Sure.
I saw the people there, last night. We know those type of folks. I've seen them at dozens of events in Washington, D.C. Mayor, I'll say it. Come on. There's a good chance, right? A strong chance Antifa was involved.
Yeah.
And, of course, other groups. I also want to mention that the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, is just around the block from the DNC.
Yeah.
Well, if you need any more proof that we have 2 systems of justice in this country, there's more proof. And remember, please remember this. That's a euphemism. 2 systems of justice means no justice.
No justice. That's right.
Because
May I make a point about something? You know how they went after very innocent people who were peacefully protesting on January 6th? They were protesting all the oppression that was happening with conservatives. The president instructed the Department of Justice to go after these people makes you want to be silent, right? People are afraid to go to any pro-Trump rally or be seen as a conservative. They reach
afraid to
their
represent
goal of intimidating you.
They're afraid to represent him.
A lawyer for a conservative client.
You know all the people that backed out on representing lawyers.
Yeah.
Pressure from the bar associations.
That's right.
And the bar associations, which are part of all this, part of this
Sad.
radical
Healthcare
communist.
is now too.
Yeah, I mean, just do nothing about it. They do nothing about protecting those lawyers who want to represent. Even the January 6th. The January 6th people have had a terrible problem getting lawyers. And the lawyers who have done it have been thrown out of law firms.
Yeah.
They've been deprived of clients, and they've been threatened by bar associations. I mean, why? I mean, if a terrorist, the lawyers representing them would be heroes.
Oh, they'd probably get a Nobel Peace Prize.
It's because it really is. And so I don't just want to complain, but I want to tell you why. It's because we have been brainwashed by Marxism.
We sure
Every
have.
single thing I'm telling you, I can read to you. Marx and his followers, written down programs for how to do this, for how to undermine us,
Demoralize people, oppress people, fear, make people
make you hate your
fear.
country, get you to hate your country. Like when Biden said, where he said that we are systemic racists. I said he's a Marxist.
Yeah.
To be a systemically racist country means most of us are racist.
We're so far from that.
If a country is mostly racist, it's an evil country. We're evil. Now, I'm going to give Joe a little pass here because even before he was demented, he was too stupid to know what systemic meant. Now, I know him. I'm not saying this lightly. I know Joe since 1981. The man is profoundly stupid. And I get told this. How did he make this profoundly stupid? Well, I know mafia guys that were profoundly stupid and they made a lot of money. Because he will do things that you won't do because he also has no conscience.
He has no more.
Now, you want to demonstrate how he has no conscience? Look how he treated his last granddaughter. A man with a conscience, a decent man doesn't do that. There's a decent stepmother. That's what we got in the White House. We've got really evil people who are there on ill-gotten gains. And worst of all, they sold out to our enemies. And we saw that in full display yesterday as he sold the United States down the river to a mass murder. What happened in San Francisco is a disgrace.
It's
a disgrace to all the men and women who have lost their lives fighting communism.
You had BlackRock CEO there. You had Apple CEO there. Major Fortune 500 companies. They
give me money. I kiss you.
President Xi
Jinping got a standing ovation from our American CEOs.
Chinese names. He got a standing ovation. Are you kidding me?
He got a better welcome than Biden gets. We've seen Biden's little. Everyone's like, "What's going on?"
No. We see Biden drive by, and nobody knows he's driving by.
Everyone's annoyed. They shut the street down.
Yeah, they're like, "You're making me poor, Biden."
Yeah,
it's like when he's on the beach.
When you'd think at least someone in the background, even I'd see like pointing, like, "Look, it's the president." I'd say,
the other thing,
not even that.
No,
nothing.
They're too embarrassed to be seen.
And you know the worst part of yesterday? I checked this out. I want you to know I checked this out. Okay. There were a lot of Chinese communist flags.
Yeah.
American soldiers have been killed under the banner of the Chinese communist flag in Korea. Do you know that? Yeah. The Chinese invaded and killed maybe some of your grandfathers.
They also helped in Vietnam, too.
They killed a lot of us in Vietnam. Yeah. Under that flag, under that damn flag. Right next to it, they put an American flag. The only thing I can say about it was made in China. I'm guaranteed. I went and checked. Every one of those flags was made in China.
Speaking of that, I have something to show you.
What would happen if I burned a Chinese? I'd probably go to jail.
Yeah. Oh, nowadays? Oh, my goodness.
For
our future
relationships
yeah.
between the United States and China. I'd like to burn one of those damn flags.
We'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, Rudy Giuliani only he really believes in. And we proudly support Mike Lindell and My Pillow. All of his products
We
are
love
made
Mike,
here
by the
in
way.
America. Not only are they good products, the other thing why I personally like, and I believe I can speak for you, Mike spent his own money the election fraud. And believe me, they went after him hard. He does have good products. Think of Christmas time, mypillow.com. But I also want to show you, you may not be able to see this. Made in the USA.
We'll zoom in on that.
American mypillow.com, code Rudy, and
We'll
you'll
zoom
get
in on that.
extra discounts.
Look at that. Made in the USA. Cotton, USA. That's American cotton.
American
Doesn't get
cotton.
much
God
better than
bless
that.
America.
Doesn't get much better than that.
Man.
Wow, how soft.
You know,
How soft.
I couldn't be more sincere, right? I love the towels and I love the sheets. They're awesome.
You know, if you're a woman in China, and if you're a woman in Iran and you do this, they
Oh.
kill you.
Execution.
If you're gay, they kill you anyway.
Yeah.
That's another one I don't understand. I do not understand. Now, you got to know this because this did not help me when I ran in the Republican primary for president.
Use that promo code
I
Rudy.
was the first person to sign a domestic partnership bill.
Yes, I think
Even before San Francisco
yes,
and all those
Mayor
crazy
Giuliani.
communist places, because I did
fair.
it based on my reading of the Constitution of the United States, not Karl Marx. And you can disagree with it, but I thought it was a fair compromise. Not marriage, gay alliance,
civil union.
all the same legal rights protected. So you got to imagine I got real heat from my party, but you want to look beyond my family. Here are my priorities. I believe in God, and I believe in the United States of America and the United States Constitution, in that order. Okay? So, and I believe that our rights come from God. Now, I believe that. You don't have to, you can believe they came from nature. You better not believe they came from just human beings, because they didn't. These are natural rights that you have that are necessary to have a decent, civilized society.
Thomas
So I granted them their rights. I cannot understand why anyone who's gay or lesbian would support Hamas, because Hamas would kill them on the spot. Wouldn't even ask, no trial.
So here's some information for you. Young people who are just following the crowd, stop. One of the most beautiful things in the United States, the freedom to say, our freedom of speech. And as human beings, we have the intellect of practical common sense. So start using it. In Qatar, if you're homosexual, you will be taken to trial.
And they're supposedly advanced.
And they're supposed to be advanced. And they're the ones that are high leaders who are living in mansions,
For money.
by the way. But you could even get executed. Iran, biggest sponsor of terrorism. We should have all kinds of sanctions against Iran. It's execution. There is no trial. You are gay in Iran, you will die.
So then, so remember,
Well, let me get to
your
Hamas.
your hero, Prince Obama, gave them $170 million in cash, so they can kill more gay people.
Yeah, kill Americans. Hamas will be even more outwardly executions of gays. Iran is definitely execution, but they sometimes like to do the hangings behind closed doors. Not Hamas. They're going to make sure everybody sees how they murder you. They are a terrorist ISIS group. They have no soul. You think they... So right now, United States of America, Israel has, many nations have given money to Gaza, to Palestinians, to help. They've been in a food crisis for a long time because you know who takes the money?
Right.
Hamas and the Hamas leaders. Their fuel issues have been given to them by multiple countries. Hamas takes it. Do you see the picture? There is no reasoning. There is no negotiation. These people use human beings, innocent children, as their shield.
You know,
Anyway, so
Dave
get off my
Senor
soapbox.
yesterday, and I think I mentioned this last night because I had just heard it, but it's worth mentioning again. Dan Senor, who was an advisor in the Bush administration, a friend of mine and a very, very bright guy, but he made an observation. I hadn't thought of it this way, but maybe this will get it across to people. And we probably don't have to do that with you, but you may have to do it with your friends. Just say to them, suppose lined up a whole group of women and children and put them in front of the Russian troops, right? And they started firing on the Ukrainians and killing the Ukrainians
We'd get 'em
from
for
behind
war
the
crimes.
troops, from behind the women and children. And then the Ukrainian troops shot to protect themselves and to protect Ukraine. Who would be blamed for the death of the women and children? Putin, right? Not in the case of Israel, right? So Israel does everything. And Israel, by the way, went to lengths that I wouldn't go to those lengths.
They're good people.
They went to lengths at those.
That was their land.
Weeks
that they
of
gave to the
leaflets.
Palestinians.
Weeks of. They actually paused with this Al Shifa hospital. They paused 4 times each day. They were taking people out the back door. That's how they got the pictures. And this is amazing that these people are so brutal. Hamas is killing their own people when they're trying to get out. So that
They don't
can,
want 'em to
well,
leave.
because this way they can frighten the other ones, and the other ones will stay.
Yeah.
Because they need these shields, and they need these numbers to give to the crooked UN, so the UN can say that Israel killed, innocent people. People who kill right now, the blood of every one of those people is on Hamas. Now, I got some really amazing news. Hillary Clinton has come out very strongly against any ceasefire.
It's the first and only time I'll agree with Hillary Clinton.
I'm gonna read this. This was to the Atlantic Council, which is left of left, by the way. She pointed out that Hamas broke a 2012 ceasefire with Israel in 2014,
Yep.
in 2021,
That's right.
and then again on October 7th,
Yeah.
making it clear that it can't, quote, be allowed to once again retrench and launch new attacks.
Yes.
They only need 3 days to do that, by the way.
Yeah.
Argues ex-Secretary of State Hillary Clinton at The Atlantic.
She's absolutely right.
A full ceasefire that leaves Hamas in power would be a disaster. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is heartbreaking, but every death means more blood on Hamas's hands. That's why I am convinced Hamas must go. A ceasefire that restores the pre-10-7 status quo would leave Gazans under the domination of terrorists and Israelis vulnerable to continued attack. Hamas's 10-7 attack and its breathtaking ceasefires also this is very amazing. Israel's long policy of containment has failed. I've been a critic of it for 30 years.
So
it
you
needs a
think
new strategy and new leadership. You're
So
damn
do you
right.
think Israel should take back their land?
I do.
I was
I
thinking,
absolutely. Let them live next to me.
when we
Sorry.
get through this, maybe they should give them a quarter of what they had. Now, remember, Israel gave them beachfront properties that could have kept all Palestinians living a very comfortable life because of tourism. But instead, they voted in, and Hamas robbed everything from the people. So my own personal feeling is Israel should give them this much in southern Gaza and take the rest back.
Yeah, I think Israel should give them as much as Egypt and Jordan is willing to give them.
Which is zip.
No, I'm sorry.
Nada.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
probably nobody will agree with it, but I that was my position 30 years ago. When they forced Israel to give the land back, I said as a young man, I'm not even sure if they were Republican or Democrat then, I said, I'd be damned if I give that land back. After they came and attacked my country by surprise, killed my people, and I won it from them, won that land. That's my land now. And by the way, that's my ancestral land also.
Yes.
They don't have
They are.
ancestral lands. They don't have a written history.
Yeah.
How can we find out what
There were
their
no
history
bad
is
people. Yeah.
2,000 years ago?
Yep.
I mean, some camel maybe can tell us.
This just goes to show Israelis they
Yeah.
continue to be so kind. The people who were brutalized, murdered, their
Well, the people they
babies
kill with the peaceniks.
dismembered were peace-loving
on their
people
side.
who
They
would
kill-
often go
they
in
kill
to
the
feed
Israelis
the
that are the most on their-
Palestinians.
They kill the Israelis that are the most on their side. The people in the
Yep.
the kibbutz was an
Yep.
old socialist invention. And only until recently have there been some kibbutzes that are conservative. And when they really became a capitalist economy under Bibi when he was their treasury minister, which maybe is some of the greatest work that he did. Israel would not be the rich country that it is today if it wasn't for Bibi Netanyahu. I don't care what you think about him one way or the other. His contribution to their economy is like Alexander Hamilton was to ours.
Alexander Hamilton.
I know
Madison
Trump is
really
having trouble
saved
with
the
him right
country.
now, but I think my good friend Donald is being a little too hard on him. Acknowledging that Biden he had a choice. I mean, he's got to care about. He's got to. Look, would he have? He can't say this. Would he rather have Trump there? Of course he would. Does he know?
Oh, you're talking about Ben Netanyahu.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not. I don't think I can say all these things because I'm going to give away stuff that I shouldn't. But in any event, I think he'd be a fool not to want Trump or even Bush, 43 back, who was a damn good president for Israel. Trump probably doesn't like my saying that, but that's true. He was a very good president for Israel. On the other hand, his father, having control over Jim Baker, began this containment nonsense and began the love affair with what's his name? The guy that used to wear the thing over
Arafat.
here. Arafat,
The guy-
yeah.
The guy you kicked out
Who was
of
that
the
guy? You
UN.
kicked him out of the UN because he was acting like.
You know why I threw him out?
Why?
So you just heard, you probably don't know it, but I hope you know it. You just heard Triumphal March from Verdi's Aida. It's when Radamez comes home having captured Ethiopia for Egypt, and he's greeted by but we were going to have a concert for the UN 50, which I sponsored and my supporters paid for. And we invited all the heads of state. And I specifically excluded murderers and dictators because I don't
Thank
like
you.
them.
Yeah.
I didn't want the
Your
nice
values.
people who contribute to have to rub shoulders with mass murderers and
Right.
killers like Castro. So I didn't invite Castro. I didn't invite Gaddafi. I didn't invite, you name it. I didn't invite. All the rest of them were insulted, angry, but they didn't come. This
Arafat.
gets a ticket from the king of Jordan. Now, Jordan won't allow a single Palestinian in, but they give him a ticket. I mean, that guy was a real, also exaggerated. And I'm getting ready to give my opening statement to the crowd. And my chief of staff tells me that Arafat's there. I said, throw him out. And Mrs. Sorensen was there.
Who's
The
that?
wife of Ted Sorensen,
Oh, yeah,
who used to
yeah.
write speeches and allegedly wrote a book for John Kennedy.
Allegedly.
He was now dead, and Mrs. Sorensen is French. And she was appointed by Clinton to be a liaison to the UN. And she said, you cannot throw him out. I said,
I don't know if that sounds
I wasn't
French.
used to hearing. I mean, people didn't tell me I couldn't do things. I said, pardon me, Mrs. Sorensen? She said, this is an international event, and you cannot throw him out. I said, Mrs. Sorensen, this is not an international event. This is an event.
Put it together.
I'm the mayor of the city of New York, and you're sitting here because I paid for your ticket. Like, want to shake her up a little? I throw her out too. I said, I'm throwing that son of a bitch out. And I'm throwing him out, not just because of all. In fact, some of the others I might have let stay, not to have a fuss. I happen to know that guy killed 27. She said, how do you know that? I said, well, you remember I was the United States attorney? About the only one who ever put anybody in jail, right?
Third ranking person in the Justice
Yeah,
Department.
yeah.
Yeah, you had.
I
intel.
had a warrant for his arrest for the murder of Leon Klinghoffer. Do you remember who he was?
I remember.
I know he was Jewish. Maybe you don't know. She says, oh, yes, I remember Mr. Klinghoffer. He was in a wheelchair. Yeah, he was in a wheelchair. And Arafat ordered that he be thrown out of the wheelchair and thrown into the Mediterranean. You want to sit and watch the most beautiful piece of music ever written with that guy? He's going out. She said, you will cause an international incident. Maybe I should, because your president is creating a massive problem by kissing up to him. You don't kiss up to this guy. You tell him what to do.
So what happened?
You don't kiss up to bullies. You go right in their face and you tell them, you don't straighten out that Palestinian Authority. What do you think? I'm a sucker? She said, this will be terrible. So I threw him out. I sent my two people up there, my chief of staff, my deputy chief of staff. They asked him to go. He thought about it. There were 12 cops around. He walked out, and we helped him get on his camel, and he rode right back to wherever the hell he came from. Hell, that guy was a massive mistake. Now, the New York Times writes an editorial the next day. I destroyed Middle East peace. New York insult. There it is.
This is where I know you're in the right. When the Washington Post is
a New York insult to Mr. Arafat.
Mr. Arafat.
Of course, you should insult the murderer, you stupid Washington Post. Of course, you know what we should do to a murderer? Bam!
When the Washington Post calls it an extraordinarily gross gesture, you know you're in the right. I know you did the right thing.
Think of how ridiculous this is. This man killed 27 Americans, and I threw him out. And I was the bad guy.
God bless you. We're men. We're a people today.
You know, I've been proud of that my whole life.
You should be.
When people ask me, what are the things you're proud of as mayor? I say, well, that's one of it because I had to stand up to these jackasses.
You did the right thing.
And these jackasses now have proven they're not even American.
They kiss up to the president of China.
And then what happened to Clinton? At the end of his administration, he's probably not, intellectually secure enough to admit this, but I was proven right.
You were right.
He gave him everything. He gave him, do you know that? He gave him Jerusalem. You know what Arafat said? You know why? Arafat didn't want peace.
Bingo.
He wanted war because that's how he made his money. Yeah. And his wife is now running around the south of France, a billionaire, and the people in Palestine are starving. Do you ever think there might be an analogy there to what's going on in Ukraine? Do you really think Zelensky's honest?
I don't want to embarrass you, but
do you really? I mean, no.
Oh,
Look at me. Okay. Look at me do you think Zelensky is running an honest government? That would be like a miracle. It would go from being the center in the world to being honest. It doesn't happen that way. Do you know that his main patron is the biggest money launderer in Ukraine, who was exiled, and Zelensky brought him back? So you think maybe that's why Biden doesn't have any controls on the money that he sends there? The $120 billion we gave him, which is why we shouldn't give him $60 billion more until we find out what happened to the $160 billion. How much went for arms and how much went to the oligarchs that really run Ukraine? Now, I am for the Ukrainians and against the Russians, but you're not for the Ukrainian people when you empower their corrupt dictators. Ukraine's not a democracy.
Well, I'm going to take my leave, Mayor Giuliani. Thank you for having me on. I did want to say one last thing, and I don't want to embarrass you, but you are a man of values, right? You can't be Bosch. When Saudi Arabia, Prince, I believe,
that guy too,
wanted to give
the princeling.
Yep. The city or 9/11
they eventually
charity,
put him in jail, for being a crook.
$10 million. You couldn't be Bosch.
He was stealing the family's money.
Yeah. Did you rip up the check? Or did you just send it back?
I think we ripped it up. Or we sent it back. So I don't remember.
Thank you for your...
I was worried that maybe it had been cash, but it wasn't.
Thank you.
We stopped it before it got cashed.
I bid it.
10 million's a lot. Bank sees the 10 million, they cash it like in 2 seconds.
You're going to break.
We got a few more.
Our device is something that you can plug into your television, and now you can use your television as a social television type experience. So in the Portal universe, you can watch your favorite content creators' videos, live streams, music. We also have TV subscriptions as well.
Subscriptions.
You can also
regular channels, all the sports.
Right, you can actually cut your cable from your cable subscription and get QUX TV on our QX TV boxes, and you can pay half the price that you're currently paying for your cable television subscription, and you can get all the best premium TV channels and more. I mean, it's really, there's so much on there, Rudy. I mean, you've seen it.
No, I've seen it and I use it, and it's good. I mean, it's just exactly the same except for half the price Plus, nobody is finding out what I'm watching, and that's not being reported to anybody.
Right. So you have absolute privacy using this device, which you don't have on other devices out there currently on the market.
This is absolutely great. QUX.TV is how you can find out about it. QUX.TV.
Use promo code Rudy to receive $30 off.
This is Rudy Giuliani back with you with America's Mayor Live. I want to give you some good news to end with. This for you. So there have been a couple of polls today. There's one poll that actually I don't like, and it's a poll that shows that 32% of Americans back Israel. 39% believe we should be neutral arbiters. What the hell is that? 4% only back Palestine. That's good. 4% only
Just
back
four?
4%, which means that those rallies that you see are somewhat deceptive, right? 4% back. And 15% think we should stay out, which is kind of unrealistic. But the part that bothers me is that only 32% back Israel. Now, here's the presidential head-to-heads. Trump beats Biden 50-46. Trump beats Harris by a point more, 50-45. He beats the new anointed of China who went over to kiss Xi's ring, Newsom, 49-45. He beats Witless, who was a petty dictator, 48-46. And even Joe Manchin, who has come up with a new slogan. Joe Manchin says that if you are where did I do with I wrote that down.
Different board?
Well, remember, Joe Manchin is the architect of our inflation.
Behind you.
And this is really interesting kind of inflation. There is no inflation. There are just much higher prices. That's what the Biden people tell us. And you can thank Joe Manchin for that. He's the guy who caved in, and he voted for your inflation. He should be on every milk bottle, and it should say you're paying more because of Joe Manchin is a political coward, and the guy wants to run for president like he's going to be our savior. This weakling who goes like this.
Whichever way the wind blows.
But now he came up with a new thing. This is the people who are going to vote for him. I think he described them on television as moderate, radical, central persons. I think he said centrist person. So if you're a moderate, radical, centrist person, you can vote for the guy who gave you massive inflation that really isn't inflation. It's something else, but it's high prices. And it means that your dollar is worth considerably less than it was worth when Trump was president. This guy didn't shine Trump's shoes. He couldn't. The guy is a weakling. The guy will go in any direction you want him to go in. And just think of this. I have to thank you for this. This is the only guy that Joe Biden the only guy that he hoodwinked in his 60 years in politics. Joe Biden never got an advantage over anyone because he's so damn stupid. Manchin actually believed him and voted for that bill. And now look where we are. Our economy is in terrible shape, particularly for the middle class and the poor. Now, I don't believe that he did that. I believe that Manchin doesn't really have a soul. He doesn't have a center, which means he can go this way, he can go that way, he can go this way, he can go that way. Just what we need, a chameleon. Well, God bless America, and we'll see you tomorrow night.